Namaste viewers. Today we have Mr. Anupam Tiwari with us. Anupam Tiwari from Axis Mutual Fund. Axis Mutual Fund, as you all know, is owned by Axis Bank and Schroders PLC of UK. Axis is the majority shareholder in mutual fund, owning 75%. Axis Mutual Fund manages more than 2 lakh crores of assets, and Anupam Tiwari manages Axis Small Cap Fund, and he manages mostly in unleveraged companies. He looks for companies which does not have debt, too much debt on their book. So in that way, he does very well during bear markets and equally good during bull markets. Anyway, prior to joining Axis Mutual Fund, Anupam has worked with the Reliance Life Insurance, Principal Mutual Fund, and Reliance Capital. He joined Axis Mutual Fund in the year 2016, and he is one of the very successful fund managers in the country. And also Axis Mutual Fund as a fund house, they have done pretty well on the equity front as well as on the debt front, on both sides, because some fund houses will be doing well on equity, some may be focusing more on debt, but in this case, in Axis Mutual Fund's case, they have done on both sides very well. Welcome, Anupam. Nice.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for inviting me here.
Yeah, sure, Anupam. And before getting into these things, I have some questions to put forward with you. And one of the key thing is, how is the Indian stock market, currently doing? Generally, everyone is happy. All investors are happy, fund houses are happy, distributors are happy. Everyone is happy. And will this bull market continue for a few more years, similar to the trend that we saw in 2003 to 2007, 2008? What is your take? This is a general question which many investors are looking forward to hear from you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and pertinent question, but unfortunately, there is no fixed firm answer to that. It's very difficult to predict markets, and we are taught when we are young into market, our seniors, etc., that be an investor, don't be a market predictor, and that helps a lot. So if you look at current situation, I think we are in a decently good shape, reasonably good shape, not only just in India, but globally. So the problem that we had seen during COVID in terms of economic interruption, etc., of course, there is still a part of it which is continuing, and this interruption is coming in different forms. Right now, something that is happening is logistics disruptions, across the globe, and it kind of is started with COVID, and it is still continuing, slowly getting solved. But if you look at broad economies, the recovery is quite underway in a very, very decent pace, I would say. And even if you look at in India, the system has managed really well. Of course, there is a segment which is still impacted. Service sector, hotels, restaurants, etc. Now slowly government is getting confident and opening it up. So I think if we continue like this, recovery will be quite good. Low interest rate will help. And you have seen one of the phenomenal thing that has happened even during this COVID time in India in last 1.5, 2 years. We have got huge amount of capital inflow, both private as well as on the public market scale, if you put it together. And that is why you would have seen that our forex reserve has gone up, rupee has been very stable. So we have handled it really well. And this whole capital inflow is coming because of investors' confidence in the way India is now moving ahead with its whole business environment, economic environment. So that is quite good. And so I'm quite positive on the market. Of course, it has run up pretty fast in last 1 year or so. So there could be corrections, there could be some volatility, but that is part of life. As an investor, when you are looking at 5, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year journey, you should not be too much worried about 10, 15, 20% fall. If you make a long-term chart of India market since 1991, you will find many such occasions, where market fell by 5%, 10%, 15%. And why should move too far off? If you look at last year, post-COVID, market fell almost 30% from the start of the COVID, and then rebounded pretty sharply when investors realize that yes, we are capable of handling this crisis. Of course, there would be issues, and then whole liquidity, etc. That thing came in. So I think from a market perspective, nothing to worry. But of course, this volatility you have to embrace in market. Best way, to handle this is you select right product, select right time horizon, just simply invest.
Be invested. Good, good. Well understood. How does China play into this? I mean, is it helping India right now?
Yeah, in a kind of yes, because if you look at what has happened in China in last 6 months or so, people have also started to appreciate the kind of legal framework that we have, the governance model and the legal framework that we have, where people can put forward their views, even if they are aggrieved. You see, government recently revoked the prospective taxation retrospective taxation thing. It was a big deal, but what has happened in China is something different. So I think, of course, nobody is going to go away suddenly from China just because of this, because the economic benefit that come out of China, the investment, etc., are large. It's a very large economy. But yes, now post China, India becomes the most important economic destination. If you think from a perspective of an investor or a businessman sitting in Western world and thinking, where should I invest now? Because now in China, pretty much everybody is invested, right? I don't think any significantly important person or people who have decent amount of money who is not still invested in China. In last 20 years, everybody has gone to China in some way or other, whether through business investment or through stock market investment. So incrementally, there is nothing to decide about China big time. It's now they have to take a call whether they want to bet big on India or not. And there is no other economy which can absorb so much capital. And there is no other economy which can offer you so much diversification of choices that you may have as an investor from the Western world. You can invest in a technology company, you can invest in a consumer company, you can invest in a manufacturing company, you can invest in a commodity company, whatever way you want. So that's a very good thing. There are other large economies also, but they don't provide you so much diversification. And one of the key thing in last 6 months or 1 year, what investors have seen in terms of private equity, etc., is that now they are able to liquidate, their investments. So a lot of and large sizes. Private equities guys would have been able to sell even $1 billion size of investment in India, and the market has absorbed that. That's a very big deal. So I think what we have tried to do in last 20 years or so, let's say starting 2000, 2001. So the first part that we started was 1991, when we, completely changed as an economy, from a controlled economy to a free economy. And it took 10 years for it to stabilize that what to do. Because, people need time to understand and appreciate what are the changes, how the governance is changing, etc. The real benefit started from 2000. And now that benefits are kind of reaching adulthood. So now they are ready to run. All those changes, the benefits that we have seen, system is ready, system is pretty mature to handle different kind of problems. Government has understood broadly what and how investors want something to be done. Regulation, etc. are now mature enough. Of course, things will keep on coming and going. But broadly, I think now we have a very good platform from here where we can jump ahead. And one thing is now very clear. If you look at from whether it is manufacturer investor or business people who want to invest in capacities, or pure investors, pure financial investor, the China plus one strategy is absolutely clear. They want China plus one. And India is one of the major contestant in that plus one category.
Okay.
In certain category, yes, Vietnam, etc., have a good right to win, but India is there. So I think China is helping, and we have a good opportunity to benefit out of that.
Sure. That is agreed. That we are seeing it visibly, money coming in and companies moving in, and even Taiwanese companies moving in, mobile manufacturing companies, and some of them have moved to Tamil Nadu, Bangalore, etc., etc. So that is very visible. So like now in general, if I understand correctly, there is a feeling that USA and Europe or the developed nations could slow down or slowing down due to interest rate rise or whatever reason. But what will be that effect on India in a way, if at all it goes down or if it could go down, the developed economies?
See, if you look at Europe, I don't think it is growing at such a rate that it can slow down materially. It is already at a very slow growth path, so because the growth drivers are quite absent. In last 20 years or so, they have not been able to generate new growth drivers. So I think they are in a very pretty stable. Of course, because of COVID, the rate of growth went down. Now over a period of time, it will come back again. But I don't think Europe is going to slow down materially. Now, in case of US, yes, the kind of rates that we are seeing today are quite high. So they will normalize. Of course, they will normalize. And there is also a base effect that is still there. And there is too much of liquidity in the system. So that will normalize. But if, let's say, even their previous trend growth continues, that is good enough for it, global growth. I don't think anybody is kind of now extrapolating what they have shown in last 1 year or so, in terms of growth. So everybody expect it to normalize. And then the liquidity will start to taper, which is kind of in everybody's expectation. So it's not anything out of whack that will come in because of US system normalizing or liquidity tapering off.
Okay. Will it have negative effect on Indian economy?
It will not have negative effect on Indian economy, but yes, market may have to take a kind of a little bit adjustment. There's some part which is liquidity driven may go away.
Okay. So in that way, by the fundamentals, it may not affect the fundamentals materially, not to a greater extent. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
See, we have a very large domestic support to economy now. And in fact, one of the key problems that has happened in last, let's say pre-COVID 4 or 5 years, that exports growth was not there. So in fact, whatever has happened, whatever slow growth we have seen in last 5-7 years, it's due to domestic growth only. The exports have not contributed much. So it's not that we are heavily dependent on US, etc. to drive our growth. It's not like that.
True. And one of the things when as I understand from my conversation with you and Jignesh, your CIO, all those things is generally Axis as a fund house is, growth oriented. They look for companies which have high growth path. But now after a long lull, now it seems the value theme is coming up. So how, you are playing this Axis as a mutual fund house and you as a manager for the funds that you manage, how you take care of this, value versus growth thing right now?
So see, generally we are, as you said rightly, we are growth investors, right? We look for companies who can grow. And why we do so is because we want to own companies for next 5, 7, 8, 10 years. Because that is how you create huge wealth in the stock market. You generally don't create huge wealth just by buying an undervalued stock in once, because it may readjust to its normal valuation. If you look at the classic growth or versus value, that definition is there. So growing companies create large wealth. They create always more wealth as compared to, let's say, any other companies. Even value investing to some extent relies on growth at some point of time in the life cycle of your investment, right? You don't want to buy a company just it is not growing and it is cheap. So it will have a one-time adjustment and one-time gain. But then what happens? And market is very efficient. Nothing remains undervalued forever. At some point of time, people discover the value because there are intelligent people in the market. It's not that there are only few intelligent people. Market is a very broad collection of intelligent people. And actually, people should ask question that if something has remained undervalued for 10 years, 5 years, why it is so? Why whole market has ignored it. So at some point of time, growth has to come. So we have a value fund where we try to deploy value with our quality filter, etc. That philosophy. But in Our other funds, we are very clear. The way we have managed them in past, that will continue. And whenever in companies which are undervalued but showing promising growth, we are very happy to own them. We buy them. It's not that we are completely, locked in any definition and we will not touch them. It's not the case. Where we are seeing relatively good growth, we will buy them.
Good, 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 good. And as people start seeing, it's like a Onida thing, owner's pride, neighbors envy kind of thing. Earlier, Onida television had an ad, owner's pride, neighbors envy. Similar to that, now, friends are seeing their friends' portfolio. The guys who are not at all invested in mutual funds, they are seeing friends' portfolio and seeing 25%, 30% CAGR return, 20% CAGR return. Now they want to invest and they want to take maximum risk. Now we get customers like that. Every day we are getting customers like that.
Yeah.
So now the problem is, sometimes when markets are high, we are a little fearful. So that is the case. So is it a good time for a novice investor, for a new investor to put into equity mutual funds bulk?
Yeah, I think, see, if you have time horizon, most of the people don't appreciate the fact that lot of problem in market can be solved by only one thing, and that is time. So as a mutual fund investor, I always tell people to look for 2-3 things. And unfortunately, most of them don't look at them. Almost now I have been in market in mutual fund industry for more than 15 years, and the one thing that I want for people to look is the type of product and the time you have. Just try to analyze that. And people always analyze market, economy, sectors, etc., which is actually not in their hand, right? If I have to create a portfolio, even if today I tell you, okay, this sector is looking good, this company is looking good, it doesn't matter, because I will create portfolio. Tomorrow I may sell it, buy it, whatever. So sector, economy, market, etc., is something that I need to analyze, not the investor. What investor need to analyze is that which product he is getting into and how much time he has. Because all these problems, all the questions that he has and all the problem that he faces, the biggest problem that investor faces is fear and greed. Right? So right now he's going through a greed cycle. Last year during this time he was going through a fear cycle. Market has fallen, market is now coming up, and we have seen a lot of people redeeming, right? So post-COVID recovery, a lot of people sold their all mutual funds and their investments. Domestic investors were sellers. Now everybody wants to come back. So I think irrespective of market, what one should think is how much time he has. If you have more than 2-3 years, yes, you should start thinking about equity. For the money that you can only spare or only leave untouched for next 6 months, 1 year, or maybe even 2 years, in my opinion, equity is not a good place. As of now, keep a buffer of 3 years. Second, how much volatility you can take. And let's say if you can leave that money for 10 years, there is no problem. You can invest in any product. Whether it is a small cap, mid cap, large cap, it doesn't matter. 10 years will solve all the problems in life. Because all the volatility will start going down. As you elongate your time horizon, the volatility starts going down. But let's say you have 5 years, I would say go for large capish funds or flexi cap type of funds. Or let's say even if you want more safety, go for balance advantage type of funds. If you have more than 5 years, look for mid cap. If you have more than 7-8 years, look for a small cap. And just don't worry. Volatility is something that you need to embrace. That is the only mental problem that you have to bear in the market. Market doesn't take anything else.
True, I agree with you. One more thing, after a long lull, again, after 13-14 years, after the previous peak, it seems, government is spending a lot on infrastructure, and subsequently private people are also on the catch-up mode. So infrastructure as a theme, what is your expectation? What is your take?
Yes, I think infrastructure investment by government is continuing, and it will, I think for next 10-20 years, it will continue. because we still lack in terms of infrastructure.
Mhm.
We still lack enough railway capacity to carry freight. You would be surprised that we have created so many highways in last 15 years or so, but there are certain highways which are actually choked. 6-lane roads are choked.
Yeah, true.
Not sure whether you have traveled between Ahmedabad and Mumbai, or let's say Mumbai, Delhi, old route, the current highway route. You will find, there are trucks everywhere. So we are still lacking in terms of infrastructure. So this investment will continue, and I think government is drawing new and new plans. Government is investing in improvement of railway stations, new expressways. This Delhi Mumbai expressway will become the largest ever infrastructure project, more than 1 lakh crore executed in India, and it's working at a very fast speed.
Mhm.
You know, the problem in stock market is that just don't correlate stock performance or sector stock performance with what is happening in the underlying sector. Because it's not that infrastructure invest is starting now. Infrastructure investment is happening for last 10-15 years or so.
True.
So in the stock market, you need to find companies which can make money for you. A sector doing well may not necessarily translate into every stock in that sector doing well.
True. True.
So I would say yes, it is an interesting sector, but should one look at that sector with a very huge amount of allocation, I would still not be very enthusiastic about that.
Okay. Okay. And coming to the funds that you manage, so far we are talking more on the economy and other fronts. Coming to the funds that you manage, I have been tracking Axis Small Cap Fund for quite a long time, and it has been doing well. And congratulations to you on that front.
Thank you.
And now I think you started managing Balanced Advantage Fund also in your from your stable. So just to understand the philosophy for the viewers, Axis Small Cap as a fund, how you manage, how do you filter the opportunities in a brief way, that whatever you can give us, and in a very simple language, and how is this segment performing, Axis Small Caps, not Axis Small Cap segment performing, and what are the opportunities going forward for Indian investors, and how people can look at these funds? That is my question, particularly on small cap.
If I understand correctly, the two good questions. One, what we do in the small cap fund, how we do it, and secondly, where are the opportunities?
Correct. Yeah.
So let's first start is that where are the opportunities? The micro part, the larger picture. So I think if you look at industry as a whole, mutual fund industry, and look at a lot of small cap funds, you will find that they have delivered very good return in last 7-8 years. And this is the time when we have seen maximum problem in Indian economy. So we have seen demonetization, we have seen GST, we have seen slowdown in 18-19, and then we have seen COVID. Right? Even after that, if you compare last 5-7 years, small caps have done very well as a category across mutual funds. And very good returns fund managers have delivered. It means that this is a category which can actually deliver. Earlier, people used to think this is a very, very risky category. Yes, it is highest volatile category in the market, but it's not something which you should not invest at all. It's something that you can invest, and even worst of the time, category has remained stable and delivered return. So that is one part. Now, why it has happened and why it will continue to happen in future also is that if you look at last 10-15 years, Indian economy has kind of started getting stronger and stronger. Now, when an economy starts getting stronger and it becomes much more, let's say the growth percolates down to the sectors and to smaller companies, generally young and smaller companies start doing well, and they create larger delta in terms of their profile, their business. And that is why as economy becomes larger, more and more companies, different type of services, and a stronger business framework comes for smaller companies. So that is one most important thing that people should remember. Second thing is that a growing economy offers 2-3 things to smaller companies. And what has happened in last 15 years in India, that has kind of strengthened that. what is the biggest problem with young companies and smaller companies? There are two big problems. One, access to talent, and then access to capital. These are two most important things for a small company to grow, which are required. Without this, you cannot grow. See, there are business opportunities everywhere in India and world. There is no dearth of opportunity. The question is who can grab that opportunity, who can execute well, who can capture that opportunity. And for that, you need only two things. You need good people, good talent, and then you need money, you need capital.
Capital. True.
So earlier, if you look at 10 years ago and you ask any youngster where he wants to work, and he will name all the big companies, preferably MNCs. I want to work in these Google, etc., those companies, large MNCs. Nobody wanted to work in small companies. And then what happened? There was a series of smaller companies doing very well, ESOPs, etc., and people creating wealth. So now everybody is very comfortable going to smaller companies. So now we have solved the talent problem. And also in last 10, 15, 20 years, because of growth in large companies, there is a big talent pool available. 15 years ago, it was always fight for talent. So only big companies used to get good talent. Because there was a very limited, MBA colleges were less, engineering colleges were less, experienced people were less. Now there are plenty of people, who are well trained in large organizations, who have worked there for 10, 15 years. And they are very happy to take risk and go to smaller companies. Because in last 10, 15 years, they have seen that, okay, if you go and work in smaller companies and it does well, then you can actually create very good wealth for you. And you can have much more better growth path. So those instances are there, and that is motivating talent. The second thing is from company's perspective also. Earlier in India, small promoters used to be wary of hiring and paying good talent. They used to be, I will do everything. No problem. I don't need to hire very good talent, paying well. Who can question me? No, we should not be doing this way, we should be doing that way. Now we see people actually, even promoters who are involved in the company, they are hiring good outside talent to run their company. MDs are there and CEOs, they are hiring good CEOs, paying them well. So from promoter perspective also things are changing. They are also realizing this, that to grow, to become large, they need good talent. So this problem is now getting solved like anything. And even in future, it will be much, much better situation. And this is the most important thing. People don't realize that, we discuss about sectors, economy, etc. But you need somebody to convert everything into action. And that requires capability, that requires talent, So that's most important thing. The second thing is access to capital. I think in last 10 years, one thing that has happened in India, which is remarkable, is that excitement of a normal person to invest in smaller companies. We have a SME exchange now. Even in, you look at the small cap space in India, it has become pretty large. It has delivered returns, so people are excited. There are domestic private equity funds opened in last 3-4 years. Mutual funds are opening private equity funds for domestic investors. Private equity funds have come up from, I think in India now, all the marquee global private equity funds are present. I don't think there is anybody who is not present in India. Everybody is investing. So you can name top 20, 30 guys, and they are all names are present in India. So now getting capital is also not a big problem. So I think these are two most important things. These are two most important changes that have happened. So economy itself is offering opportunity, new growth opportunities. And then this whole last 10, 15 years, India has gained a very good reputation in terms of being a reliable manufacturer, reliable service provider. Thanks to what IT did, what pharma industry did, it has now percolated down to other sectors also. So that is helping to grab global opportunities.
True.
You look at even smaller companies, they are exporting big time. I see companies with 300, 400 crore turnover exporting 60-70% of their production to outside India. And these are smaller companies. Technology is helping, internet has helped people, etc. Government has helped in terms of relaxing capital control and all that. So all these things have kind of created a very good platform for smaller companies to grow. And as Indian economy keeps on growing, I think the smaller space will give you very, very exciting opportunities. So next 10, 15 years, I see great opportunity in small caps. And of course, market has its own volatility and things will keep on going up and down. But at a broader level, if you ask me, Indian small cap companies are going to do very well in next 10 to 15 years. Phenomenal. So that is on the as a broader space. Now, what we do, how we manage our funds in terms of a small cap is that we believe, and this is our core philosophy, that when you buy a small cap company, essentially you are taking four risks: promoter risk, business risk, cycle risk, and valuation risk. These are four pillars, these are four big questions that we want to answer while selecting a stock. So the biggest risk is promoter or management. When I say promoter, it means the management. As I told you that the talent is most important thing for a small company to become a large company or to attain good growth. So first we look at the competence and integrity of the management and promoter. What is their track record? Can they deliver or not? Are they shareholder friendly or not? And we never compromise on this thing. There is no point being with a small company which have not shown you great strength, because then it would be cyclical. It may not be a sustainable wealth creator. And we want the promoter to be absolutely investor friendly with utmost commitment to corporate governance. Because if the corporate governance is questionable, then you cannot make money as an investor, even if business is doing well.
Definitely.
First two things that we want to answer. Then we look at business. Are we buying a good quality business or not? And business has to be good. Never buy a bad business, because when you buy a bad business, it is highly likely that you will lose money. When you buy a good business, it is very unlikely that you will lose money. You may not make great returns, but you will not lose money. And that's the most important thing in investing, that in long term, you should prevent losing money. That's a very, very important factor.
True.
And when we say good business, we look for one, scalability. Can it become large? What is the size of opportunity that is out there? And then, can this company or this management deliver and capture this opportunity profitably? So we look at ROE, ROC, cash flows. Because if opportunity is large, but you cannot execute it, capture it profitably, then there is no point buying that company. And that is why I say, just don't look at size of opportunity. When we are discussing infrastructure, etc., that it's not just size of opportunity that matters. It is also important who can actually grab that opportunity with a profitable growth. So that is second thing that we look at. The third thing we look at, are we entering the stock in a right business cycle? So whether business cycle is going to be favorable for us or not. And that we analyze with our research, etc. Sometimes we make mistake, but most of the time we go right. We have made very few mistakes where we have actually gone wrong in our business cycle assessment. And then we look for valuation. In small companies, people should not be finicky about valuation. That is my belief. And it doesn't matter. You are buying a small company if it delivers. And good companies will always surprise you positively on growth. Bad companies will always surprise you negatively. And if you have time horizon in your hand and you can hold the stock for 7-8 years, even paying 10-20% premium, it's okay. It's not a big problem. But owning a good promoter, a good business is the most important thing in investing in small caps. So these are four key questions that we try to answer. And when we get a favorable answer, we buy that company. And generally we want to remain slightly concentrated. And we don't want to create a very broad portfolio. We remain slightly concentrated and we own big time. The companies that we like, we own big time. And we avoid cyclical businesses because it's very difficult. See, small caps anyway are not very liquid, so you cannot get in, get out. We get into cyclical business only when we feel that there is some kind of sustainable advantage that company has.
And how do you take care of the leverage in among the 4 items that you discussed, 4 parameters that you discussed? Where do you take care of the leverage of the business?
Just avoid it.
Just avoid it.
See, small companies are very vulnerable, right? So, whenever bad time comes, the first thing that kills you is leverage.
Leverage. Okay.
Business declining by 20% will not kill you, but debt in your balance sheet will kill you. So, we prefer debt-free companies. There are very few indebted companies that we have, and it's always good to own good companies which have no problem in their balance sheet and no burden in their balance sheet, because that helps. When we own something for 8-10 years with that mindset, of course there would be bad times. So at that time you should be pretty sure that this company will not be adversely impacted. Whatever problem comes, its balance sheet would be strong enough to handle that. And the first thing to ensure that is don't buy leverage companies.
So, do you have a percentage kind of thing, or you don't want to have leverage at all?
Of course, in certain segment we cannot ignore leverage. Let's say, for example, a cement company, etc., or which are asset heavy companies. But generally, thought process is avoid leveraged companies.
Okay.
Only in very, very exceptional situation where we feel that no, the valuation, comfort, and the quality of business is such that it can handle the leverage problem. Only then we own leveraged companies. Otherwise, we don't want to buy leveraged companies.
That is good. That is good. Generally, yeah, that's what in our first meeting, that's what I understood from you. So that's good. And the other fund, the category that is in limelight right now, which is Balanced Advantage Fund category, that also you manage.
Yes.
So tell us, throw us some light on that fund and how you manage, and with what kind of parameters that you manage, and how important that fund is in the current scenario.
Okay, good questions. So I think that is the most important fund in current situation, because that is the fund that people should look. Generally, when market is doing very well, etc., people want to make money. You are afraid of volatility, or you don't want volatility in your portfolio. This is the product. Because what happens is, based on certain parameters, as market keeps on going up, we reduce equity in the portfolio. Okay. And as market comes down, we increase equity in the portfolio. So that is how it works. So basically, it solves problem of huge drawdowns for investors, especially in current situation where market has already run up quite fast and there will be some correction, etc. But broadly, it solves problem for investor in terms of having low volatility. One of the most important factor that impacts an investor psychologically is volatility.
True.
When he looks at his portfolio and it is fallen by 20-30%, then the real impact comes out. The real nature of market comes out. Because in good bull market, everything is good. An investor has all type of gyan, he understands everything, he is very positive on Indian economy, on market, etc. The only problem starts when market falls by 15-20%.
Yeah, that's when the investor comes and tells that that's when we have the most problem. The fund manager, the fund house, everyone has the most problem. They say you don't know to manage.
Correct.
You don't know it. They get angry.
Correct. And the reaction is very, very natural, because it hurts to lose money. People don't realize this, that there are a lot of psychological studies available that if you make 100 rupees profit, let's say you get happiness of 1 kg. When you lose 100 rupees, actually the sadness or the stress that you get is much larger than 1 kg. If I can measure that, disproportionate. And market is such that when it falls with a ferocity, right? It's very ferocious thing that happens. And when market falls, you get all the negative thing happening around you, thrown at you through newspaper, TV channels, that everything is going bad. Nothing will happen now. Nothing good will happen. So then he gets puzzled, and that's a bigger problem, and that is why volatility makes you numb and it prompts you to make wrong decisions. It is not about your knowledge about economy or etc. company sector that prompts you or that makes you lose money. It's how you react to volatility that decides how much money you will make, how much money you are going to lose in stock market. And that is very important for investor to understand. Now, there are only two ways to solve this volatility problem. One is time, which everybody has, but nobody is able to understand. You have 10 years, but you want every year money to be made. Because the market was 20 years, you 20%, you think, boss, abhi nothing is going to happen. So another way to do it and control volatility in your portfolio is selection of right products. And then look at your portfolio on a holistic basis. And then these balance advantage fund comes as a very prominent product. Because what happens is its volatility is too low. Because we keep on moving equity up and down, so it controls volatility in a very, very beautiful way. So every investor should own it, should have it in his portfolio. Now he can choose whether he wants to own 5%, 10%, or 20, 30, 40%, depending on his discussion with people like you. But everybody should have it. There's a must-own product in everybody's portfolio. And in the AA side, we always keep duration very low, so that the risk is controlled in that sense. So that is how we create portfolios. And to ensure that you get equity taxation, we ensure 65% gross equity all the time. So we do arbitrage we use and maintain 65% gross equity. So this is a fantastic product in current situation. And depending on how much investor wants to allocate, I think this is a must-have product in everybody's portfolio.
Yeah, true. With the markets roaring and one wants to enter right now, particularly for bulk, balanced advantage as a product is a great product. And your equity levels moves between 30 and 80?
30 to 100.
30 to 100.
Between 0 to 100, but our range is 30 to 100.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for sharing so much of information, Anupam. Now, on a personal note about your family, about the likes, dislikes, your hobbies, anything you want to share with our viewers, because it is always interesting to know what the other person is doing.
Sure. So I have a son and my wife. So we are three people in our family. My son is now 15-year-old, so he is in 10th. Incidentally, yesterday was his birthday, so he's just turned 15. And as far as hobbies are concerned, I like to travel, so I drive a lot. I like to drive around. So I've driven across country almost. If you remove the 6 states in Northeast, I have traveled almost and driven on road in almost every state in India.
Wow, that is great.
From Kerala to Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Sikkim, etc., Gujarat, everywhere I have driven. And I like to do photography. Whenever time permits, I do landscape photography. So these are two basic hobbies that I have.
Very good. It's good to know, great to know about you as a person, as well as the funds that you manage and the world economy, etc. Thanks for sharing your time. Hopefully, when now COVID is over, hopefully it won't come again. And if you happen to travel to Chennai, please, drop by our office.
Of course, sir. Of course. Thanks a lot for inviting me here again, and thanks a lot for giving this opportunity to talk to your viewers. Thank you, sir.